Ridge.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And if I were to encapsulate this bill, I would say that it is far too little and far too late. This bill is not an act of leadership. It's an act of desperation. It's a half-hearted political band-aid from a government that's been caught red-handed presiding over a public safety crisis of its own making. For nearly a decade, the Liberals have gambled with the safety of Canadians. They have told us their modern bail system would be fairer, more compassionate, more enlightened. Well, Mr. Speaker, it's been none of those things. Their ideology has unleashed chaos on our streets, fear in our neighborhoods, and heartbreak in our families. All 10 premiers, every single one of them, have begged this Prime Minister to fix his broken bail system. Every police chief, every front-line officer who has spoken out has warned this Liberal government that their bail policies are handcuffing police and setting criminals free. And every ordinary Canadian knows, because they can see it, they can feel it, that violent crime has exploded under this Liberal government. Since the Liberals have come into power, violent crime is up 55%, extortion has skyrocketed 330% across our nation, and it's closer to 582% in British Columbia. Sexual assaults are up 75%. In British Columbia, the number of sexual violations against children has quadrupled. Mr. Speaker, these are not just abstract numbers. These are shattered lives, broken families, terrified communities. And behind each of those statistics, there is a name, a face, a story, like Bailey McCourt, brutally murdered by her ex-husband, who had been released on bail after an assault conviction. Or Savannah Kula, a 29-year-old mother of 4, shot and killed in Brampton, her killer out on bail. Mr. Speaker, when will this government understand that its compassion for criminals has become cruelty towards victims? Bill C-14 is not a solution. It's a confession. It is this government finally admitting that their so-called reforms are a disaster. They talk about adjusting and clarifying. No, this bill is a watered-down imitation of the Conservative plan. The plan that they've voted against time after time. They've ridiculed it. Then they quietly copied when Canadians demanded action. They are trying to clean up their own mess with a mop made of Liberal spin. Let's remember how we got here. Bill C-75, the Liberal law that enshrined the so-called principle of restraint, it told judges, release first, ask questions later. Then there's Bill C-5, the law that scrapped mandatory minimums for gun crimes and sexual offenses and brought back house arrest for criminals who should be behind bars. And what has that meant, Mr. Speaker? It has meant that convicted sexual offenders serving their sentences in their own living rooms. It has meant a child pornographer in British Columbia getting an 18-month house arrest. It has meant a man who tried to pay for a 15-year-old girl for sex receiving a 3-month term house arrest. Why? Because a longer sentence might delay his citizenship. And it has meant that in 2022, nearly 1/3 of homicides were committed by people already out on some form of release. I'll say that again. 1/3 of homicides committed by people out on some form of release, whether it's bail, probation, or house arrest. If that does not bring the Liberals, the Administration of Justice, and to disrepute Mr. Speaker, I don't know what does. So what are they doing now? They bring in Bill C-14, a timid half measure that tinkers around the edges. Yes, it does narrow the principle of restraint and expands reverse onus provisions, steps Conservatives have been demanding for years, but it does not repeal C-75 or C-5, the twin pillars of the government's soft-on-crime experiment. It does not restore mandatory minimums for guns, sex offenses, and repeat violent crimes. It does not create true presumption of detention for dangerous offenders. And it still tells judges to impose the least onerous conditions possible when granting bail. Least onerous? Tell that to the family of Bailey McCourt. Tell that to the children of Savannah Kula. Mr. Speaker, this is the core of the problem. Conservatives believe in due process and the presumption of innocence, absolutely. But due process does not mean a revolving door. If an accused person can be released, then fine. But give the judge the power to impose strict bail conditions when necessary. Strict bail is fair, it is safe, and it saves money compared to unnecessary incarceration. But this government's ideology ties judges' hands. It says either grant bail on the easiest terms imaginable or deny it entirely. That's absurd. Half-baked legislation creates half-safe communities. Mr. Speaker, Conservatives are not asking for a right turn. We're demanding a U-turn. We're all on the Liberal bus careening down a dangerous road. The provinces are shouting, the police are shouting, Canadians are shouting, turn around. And the Liberals, they smile, tap the brakes, and pretend that they've changed directions, while the cliffs keep coming closer and closer. Well, Conservatives will not sit silently in the back seat while this government drives safety over the edge. Mr. Speaker, this government loves to say we're investing in safety, but the Minister of Public Safety says he's not responsible for hiring RCMP or CBSA officers. If he's not responsible, who is? The Tooth Fairy? Canadians deserve a government that takes responsibility, not one that points fingers and shrugs. So yes, Conservatives will work to strengthen Bill C-14 as much as we can. We will push for real reforms, not window dressing. We'll demand that Liberal bail be scrapped once and for all. But let me be crystal clear. Until these Liberals make public safety their top priority, until they put victims ahead of violent repeat offenders, until they make justice mean something again, Canadians will not be safe. Mr. Speaker, Liberal leniency has become Liberal lawlessness. And the only way to stop it, the only way to make our streets safe again, is with a Conservative government that believes in law, order, and accountability. Because this isn't about politics. It's about every parent who doesn't feel safe walking their child to school. Every woman afraid to take the bus at night. Every senior locking their door in broad daylight because they no longer recognize their neighborhood. Canadians deserve better, victims deserve better, and Conservatives will never stop fighting for them. It's time to scrap the Liberal bail, restore common sense, and make Canada safe again. Thank you.
Questions and comments. Question commentaire, the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I was encouraged by the previous speaker when he made reference to the fact that it needs to be able to go to committee. Even the member opposite is saying in principle that he supports, obviously has lots of concerns in regards to it from his perspective, but he appears to be supportive of it. The question that I have is that we have a Prime Minister that has established this as an election platform promise to Canadians to bring in substantial bail reform. That is what C-14 is all about. A great deal of effort, a phenomenal amount of support from all the different stakeholders out there behind C-14. And as I'm sure the member would agree, our constituents want to see bail reform. I do, the Prime Minister, I'm sure every Liberal MP wants to see that. The question for the member is, does he not believe it's reasonable? The Conservatives are going to make the determination. Can, or would he agree, we should pass this legislation before the end of the year?
Member for Pitt Meadows, Maple Ridge.
Mr. Speaker, we do support measures within this bill, and we'll want to bring in other motions and amendments when it goes to committee. That's essential because as it is, it's very watered down. And Conservatives will believe that public safety is paramount, that we believe the principle of restraint must be repealed and replaced by public safety primacy clause, and that mandatory minimums must be restored for firearms, sexual offenses, and repeat violent offenses, because we don't see that. And house arrest must be barred for robbery, trafficking, and violent crimes. Thank you.
Questions and comments. The Honourable Member for Jonquière. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I listened attentively to my colleague as he talked about, I would say, the Liberal ideological vision which led to fear in our streets, to repeat what my colleague had to say. But I think he should be a little bit more cautious about when he talks about ideology. The problem with alarmist speeches is that they too can lead to fear. And to legislation that doesn't meet the needs of the public. At a few points, Conservatives have proposed measures that went a little bit far. But I have a simple question. There's one element of the bill that we have trouble with, reverse onus provisions in certain cases. We see that the bill will even cover car theft. Should car theft really be subject to reverse onus provisions and preventive detention? I don't think so. I'd like to hear what my colleague has to say. The Honourable Member for Pitt Meadows, Maple Ridge. I would like to thank my Bloc Québécois colleague. I am not a judge, but I do know that the number of car thefts is absolutely incredible. They're being sent out through ports like the Port of Montreal, and they're being shipped right to Africa. And what's happening? Not too much. No one is really standing up to fight this. We, as Conservatives, believe that there must be checks and balances, measures that would stop all of this. And right now, under the system the Liberals put in place, that is not what we have. Crime is out of control. Things are crazy.
Commentary? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary, the Government House Leader, about 30 seconds.
Yes, just very quickly, again, I appreciate the comments. I think it is important that we pass this legislation or make a commitment to pass it before the end of the year. And again, I would ask the member to provide his thoughts in regards to, does he believe his constituents would like to see the bail reform law in place before the end of the year?
Member for Pitt Meadows, Maple Ridge.
Mr. Speaker, they would like to see changes in our communities. And I'm not convinced that all the measures are going to, how much change is going to be. Yes, there's going to be some. We need a lot more teeth because we've had 10 years of chaos and crime on our streets under this Liberal government. And they're having a deathbed conversion of somewhat right there, but sincerity, I have to question it. Thank you.